The Banishing. The city of Aurelia glimmered under the light of its twin suns, a sprawling metropolis of crystalline towers and humming energy fields. Its streets were immaculate, its citizens orderly, and its rulers, the Zytherian Council, revered for their unyielding logic and strict adherence to law. To the Zytherians, emotion was a variable to control, and creativity a dangerous unpredictability. They valued efficiency, precision, and obedience above all else. Among the Zytherian subjects, however, were humans. The humans had come generations ago, escaping the ravages of a dying Earth, and had settled peacefully on Aurelia, bringing with them their passion, ingenuity, and relentless curiosity. For many Zytherians, this was a delicate balance. They appreciated human skill but feared human unpredictability. At the heart of Aurelia, within the central spire, the ruling council gathered. Their voices, cold and measured, echoed across the chamber. They had convened in secret for days, deliberating the humans' latest misstep, an ambitious experiment designed to sustain an entire city sector with a new biodome ecosystem. Cairo Vey, the lead human engineer, stood among his peers, calm despite the tension in the room. Cairo was tall and wiry, his dark hair streaked with silver, not from age but from long nights of experimentation. His eyes held a quiet fire, a determination to prove that humans could thrive under circumstances even the Zytherians deemed impossible. Beside him stood Leora Tain, a fearless explorer known for her ingenuity in navigating uncharted territories of Aurelia. She had short, copper-colored hair that shimmered in the light and a gaze that could pierce through the most carefully constructed arguments. The biodome was a marvel in theory. Within its glassy confines, flora from multiple planets was to grow in harmony, creating a self-sustaining ecosystem. Energy and water were to recycle in perfect cycles, and Cairo's algorithms promised stability. However, the reality had been catastrophic. A miscalculation had caused the biodome to overload, sending shockwaves of energy through the city's lower sectors. Thankfully, no lives were lost, but entire infrastructure grids had been damaged. The Zytherians were furious. "This is unacceptable," intoned High Chancellor Vadran, his tall frame rigid, metallic blue eyes glinting like shards of ice. "Humans cannot continue to disrupt our order under the guise of innovation. They are reckless." Cairo bowed his head, saying nothing. Leora's hands were clenched at her sides, though her expression remained composed. The Zytherians expected arguments, pleas, perhaps even tears. But humans in their own way held a quiet dignity. "The Council has decided," Vadran continued, "that humans shall be banished from Aurelia. They will leave within 7 standard cycles, taking nothing with them but what they can carry. They are no longer welcome." The chamber fell silent, except for the faint hum of energy fields running along the walls. Humans had lived on Aurelia for centuries, contributing to science, art, and exploration. To be cast out without negotiation was a brutal verdict. Yet the Council believed this was the only way to protect Aurelia's perfect order. Cairo lifted his eyes and met Vadran's cold gaze. "We understand," he said, his voice steady but carrying the weight of generations. "We will leave." It was not defiance, nor was it submission, it was a statement. The humans would comply, but their spirits were unbroken. Outside the central spire, the news spread like wildfire. Humans of all ages gathered in the plazas, children clutching handmade trinkets, elders standing tall despite their weariness. No one cried, no one shouted, but the energy was palpable, a quiet storm of sorrow, pride, and determination. The humans communicated without words, their glances, gestures, and silent expressions conveying more than any council proclamation could. Among the crowd, Tavian Rhine, a young human with an inventive mind like Cairo's, whispered to his companion, "They think silence will break us. But silence is our language now." The humans began preparations for departure. They packed what they could carry: tools, supplies, personal mementos, and their collective knowledge. Entire libraries of research were condensed into portable data crystals. Leora oversaw the loading of equipment and assigned tasks with efficiency only humans could achieve when united by necessity. The Zytherians watched from the high terraces and observation platforms. Many expected humans to resist, to riot, to plead for mercy. Instead, they saw the silent march of a people who refused to be broken. Their unity, calm demeanor, and quiet resolve unnerved the Council. For the first time in generations, the Zytherians felt doubt creeping into their logic. Cairo and Leora led the procession toward the edge of the city. The streets were lined with humans who would never return. As they walked, the air was filled with the subtle resonance of life, the quiet energy of a species unbowed by exile. Every step was deliberate, a statement. Humans could be removed but they could not be erased. As the humans approached the outer limits of Aurelia, Cairo looked back at the city. The twin suns glinted off the crystalline towers, reflecting both beauty and rigidity. He whispered to Leora, "They believe they have silenced us. But our absence will speak louder than their words ever could." Leora's hand brushed against his. "Then let us leave a message they cannot ignore," she said. Her eyes sparkled with determination, hinting at the adventures awaiting beyond the stars. Behind them the city gates closed. The Zytherians assumed the chapter was over, unaware that in this quiet departure lay the seeds of a story that would resonate across galaxies. Humans, they realized too late, were not merely inhabitants. They were catalysts for change, forces that could not be contained by fear or authority. The humans walked on, carrying their legacy in silence. Each footstep on Aurelia's polished streets was a declaration that ingenuity, courage and unity could endure even the harshest exile. The Zytherians might erase their presence from the city, but the human spirit would remain indelible, waiting for the day it would echo through the stars. And so, the banishing was not an end but a beginning, a journey into the unknown, where humans would prove that even in silence, their impact was unmistakable, undeniable and unforgettable. The silent march. The humans moved through the outer districts of Aurelia like shadows cast by the twin suns, their steps measured and deliberate. There was no shouting, no desperate pleas for mercy, no angry protests. Just the steady cadence of a people who carried the weight of exile with quiet dignity. Their faces were calm, but within each gaze was a storm of emotion. Sorrow for the world they left behind, pride for what they had accomplished, and a fierce determination to survive wherever the stars would take them. Leading the march were Cairo Vey and Leora Tain. Cairo, ever thoughtful, scanned the horizon for potential hazards along their route, while Leora's sharp eyes catalogued the changing terrain, noting each landmark, each uneven patch of road as if committing the city to memory. They walked without words, yet their connection was palpable, a shared understanding that required no speech. Families followed behind them, carrying only what was essential. Children, some too young to fully comprehend the enormity of the moment, clutched small trinkets or family keepsakes, their tiny hands gripping tightly as if to hold onto the world they had known. Elders, who had witnessed Aurelia's golden age and its strict decline into tyranny, walked with measured steps, their silence speaking volumes. The Zytherians watched from the city walls and observation terraces. They had expected humans to scream, to rage, to plead for mercy, but all they saw was an unsettling calm. Whispers spread among the council members. Why are they so silent? In the absence of noise, fear began to creep into their hearts. The Zytherians realized, too late, that human strength did not lie in words, but in their unyielding resolve. Cairo finally spoke, his voice low and steady, more to Leora than anyone else. They think exile will erase us. But even absent from their streets, we leave marks they cannot erase. Leora nodded, her gaze fixed forward. Let them watch. Let them wonder. Let our silence be louder than any argument they could have made. The march wound through Aurelia's outer districts, past abandoned marketplaces and empty plazas. In the shadows of the crystalline towers, humans paused briefly at landmarks, places that had been centers of learning, art, and community. Here, Cairo traced a finger along a wall where generations of humans had painted murals depicting Earth, the stars, and stories of adventure. Leora picked up a small sculpture left in a public park, a human creation in abstract form, and carried it with her, a piece of legacy preserved. Every action, every gesture was deliberate. Humans communicated through subtle movements, a nod, a glance, a hand brushing against another's shoulder. Their silence became language. To the Zytherians it was unnerving, almost alien. They had never faced a people whose presence could command attention without a single sound. As night fell, Aurelia's twin moons bathed the streets in silvery light. The humans set up minimal camps along their route, each group working in quiet harmony. Fires were lit sparingly, and meals were shared without ceremony but with care. Children were comforted with gentle touches and warm blankets. Elder humans shared knowledge and stories in hushed tones, teaching the young not only survival skills but also the silent wisdom that defined their species. Cairo walked among the groups, observing and guiding without interrupting the natural rhythm of their exodus. He noticed Tavian Rhine, the young inventor, adjusting a portable energy generator with nimble fingers. Tavian's creation would allow the humans to move further, faster, and more safely into the unknown. Without a word, Cairo placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, a silent gesture of approval. Tavian looked up, a small, grateful smile appearing, understanding Cairo's message without needing words. Leora, meanwhile, scouted ahead, ensuring their path was clear. She marveled at the way the humans adapted. A broken bridge was not a hindrance, it became a project of ingenuity. An unstable slope was not a danger, it became a challenge to be solved collectively. Every obstacle, every unknown element, revealed the strength that the Zytherians had feared for so long. Humans thrived where logic alone would falter. As the first days passed, word of the human march reached distant parts of Aurelia. Citizens, Zytherian and human alike, paused to witness the procession. Some wept quietly at the sight of the exiled humans, feeling both awe and sorrow. Others, Zytherians loyal to the council, felt a creeping unease, their logic failing to explain the profound impact of a people who communicated without words. Even the council members, observing from the heights of the central spire, were unsettled. This was not a retreat, not a surrender, not a plea for mercy, it was something else entirely. One evening, as the humans set up camp on a grassy plateau overlooking the city, Cairo and Leora stood together, gazing at the glowing skyline of Aurelia in the distance. The city seemed smaller now, distant and fragile. Cairo broke the silence, his voice barely above a whisper. They think we will fade into nothing. But absence is louder than presence, Leora. They will remember us whether they want to or not. Leora smiled faintly, the wind catching her copper hair. Then let us leave a message they cannot ignore. Not with noise, not with rebellion, but with everything we do from this moment onward. The next day the humans resumed their march. The terrain changed from polished streets to rougher, uneven paths as they approached the outskirts of Aurelia. Hills rose before them, valleys opened below, and the first glimpses of untamed wilderness appeared beyond the city's reach. The humans adapted effortlessly, their unity and ingenuity evident in every maneuver. Even as Aurelia receded behind them, their minds remained focused on the future. Cairo sketched maps in his mind, planning routes through asteroid belts and uncharted planets. Leora considered resources, food and shelter, calculating risk with her unique blend of logic and intuition. The humans moved as one, a silent force of determination, and in every step, they communicated a single truth: exile did not mean defeat. As the first stars appeared in Aurelia's night sky, reflecting off the twin moons, the humans paused. Cairo raised a hand, and the group settled quietly. There was no celebration, no lamentation, only the stillness of beings who understood that this was the beginning of something far greater than their immediate loss. From the city walls, the Zytherians watched in silence. For the first time, fear crept into their structured minds. They had not banished humans. They had released a force they could neither control nor contain. The silent march was not an end, it was a declaration. And so, the humans continued, moving toward the unknown, leaving Aurelia behind. Their presence was gone, but their spirit, their ingenuity, and their quiet resilience would echo far beyond the city they had called home. Even in silence they spoke volumes. The journey to the unknown. The humans had left Aurelia far behind. Its twin suns were now tiny points of light on the horizon, and the polished streets, crystalline towers and rigid order of the city were memories carried silently in the hearts of every human. Ahead of them lay the unknown, an expanse of wilderness, asteroid belts and uncharted star systems. For most species the unknown was terrifying. For humans it was a challenge, a canvas upon which to prove their resilience and creativity. Cairo Vey led the caravan with a calm, meticulous focus. He had studied the stars, mapped potential routes and considered every possible obstacle. His mind, always restless, calculated paths through asteroid fields, predicted energy fluctuations, and anticipated unknown planetary hazards. Beside him, Leora Tane moved with quiet grace, scouting the terrain with instincts honed through years of exploration. She knew how to spot danger before it materialized, how to read subtle signs in alien flora and geological formations, and how to keep the humans moving as one cohesive force. Their first days beyond Aurelia were deceptively simple. Rolling hills and valleys stretched before them, dotted with strange plants that seemed to hum softly in the wind. The humans moved as one, communicating without words. A hand raised here, a nod there, a subtle shift in posture. These were commands, reassurances and observations all at once. To an outsider it would have seemed like silence, but to the humans, it was a symphony of coordination. As night fell on the second day, Cairo gathered the adults for a quiet meeting. They sat around small, controlled fires that flickered softly under the stars. The children slept nearby, wrapped in blankets and comforted by the presence of their elders. Cairo traced the constellations above, pointing to distant nebulae and the faint glimmer of planets far beyond Aurelia's reach. "We are no longer in a city governed by rules we must follow," he said softly. "Every decision we make from this moment shapes our future. We rely on our instincts, on our creativity, and on each other. This is what it means to be human." Leora added, "We will encounter worlds that challenge us. Some will be hostile, some barren, and some may teach us more than any city ever could. We move forward not with fear but with curiosity, and with courage." The humans rested for the night, but the following day brought challenges they had not anticipated. The terrain became rugged, and a sudden storm swept through a narrow valley, battering them with sheets of wind and driving rain. Many species would have faltered, but the humans adapted. Tents were secured with ropes improvised from woven plant fibers. Water channels were redirected to prevent flooding. Fires were shielded and meals were shared efficiently. Even in adversity, humans thrived. Cairo and Leora took turns scouting ahead, discovering natural resources that could sustain their people. They identified mineral-rich cliffs that could be mined for energy cores, freshwater streams with a balance of nutrients, and safe high ground for temporary camps. The humans worked without complaint, their silence a testament to their focus and determination. By the 5th day they reached the edge of a dense forest, unlike any they had seen before. Trees glowed faintly under the light of Aurelia's fading suns, their bark emitting a soft, harmonic resonance. Strange creatures flitted between the branches, observing the humans with curious eyes. Children watched in awe, pointing and whispering softly to one another, learning to appreciate the beauty of worlds untouched by rigid control. It was here that Cairo noticed the first signs of something extraordinary: alien energy patterns that reacted to human presence. The plants seemed to shift subtly, opening luminescent leaves when approached and closing when humans moved away. Cairo recorded the data meticulously, his mind racing with possibilities. Could life itself respond to intelligence in ways no one had predicted? Could humans influence the very environment simply by existing? Leora, meanwhile, discovered pathways through the forest that could serve as safe corridors. She demonstrated climbing techniques, using vines and natural formations to navigate quickly and safely. The humans moved with grace, learning from each other, improvising solutions and silently communicating strategies. Every challenge reinforced their unity and ingenuity. As the humans progressed, their confidence grew. Tavian Rhine, the young inventor, unveiled a compact energy shield that could protect small groups from sudden environmental hazards. Elders shared ancient knowledge of survival, and children absorbed it eagerly, their minds expanding with each lesson. Every step reinforced a simple truth: humans were more than survivors, they were creators, innovators, and explorers. One evening, as the humans camped beneath the alien canopy, Cairo stood atop a small hill, gazing at the horizon. The forest stretched endlessly, a living testament to the unknown, yet within it humans had already begun to thrive. Leora joined him, her eyes reflecting the soft luminescence of the trees. "Every step we take changes the world around us," she said quietly. "Even in silence, we are making a mark." Cairo nodded. "And every mark we make will echo far beyond Aurelia. They think banishing us silences humanity, but it does the opposite. Our absence will speak louder than words ever could." The next leg of their journey brought them to a rocky pass overlooking a canyon that glimmered with alien minerals. The terrain was treacherous, yet humans adapted once again. Bridges were improvised using fallen trees and rock formations. Safety protocols were established silently, with signals and gestures ensuring coordination. Not a single misstep was made, and by nightfall the entire group had crossed safely. Through every challenge, the humans relied not on fear, but on creativity, cooperation, and adaptability, qualities the Zytherians had feared and underestimated. And with each success, their confidence deepened, their silent march becoming a legend in its own right. As they gazed up at the stars that night, Aurelia far behind them, Cairo and Leora understood the magnitude of their journey. They were no longer exiles, they were pioneers. Every hardship, every obstacle, every silent victory strengthened their legacy. Humans had been banished, yes, but they were far from defeated. And so, with the twin suns setting behind the distant horizon, the humans pressed onward. Across alien forests, rugged hills, and uncharted valleys, their journey continued, each step a testament to human resilience. The unknown was vast and formidable, but they would face it together, in silence, with determination, ingenuity, and a quiet defiance that no council, no city, and no exile could ever erase. The first encounter. Weeks had passed since the humans had left Aurelia. Their journey through the uncharted regions of space was no longer just an exile, it had become a voyage of discovery. Every day brought new challenges and unexpected wonders, strange planets with glowing oceans, asteroid belts that twisted and shimmered like glass, and alien flora that seemed almost conscious, reacting subtly to their presence. It was on one such day, as the humans navigated a particularly dense sector of stars, that Cairo Vey noticed the anomaly. A planet unlike any they had seen lay before them, Erinder. Its surface shimmered with metallic hues, forests of crystalline structures rose like towers, and rivers of liquid light flowed across valleys in mesmerizing patterns. It was beautiful, but it radiated a strange energy, one that suggested intelligence, structure, and observation. Leora Tane scanned the planet from the observation deck of their vessel. "This is remarkable," she said softly. "But we must be cautious. Something about this place is aware." As they descended, the humans felt the subtle pull of the planet's energy. The ground beneath them hummed faintly, and the crystalline forest seemed to shift, almost as if watching. It was then that they first saw them. The Vorin, a machine-based civilization unlike anything humans had encountered. Sleek, metallic beings moved with precise grace, their bodies reflecting the light of Erinder's strange sun. Their eyes, or sensors, glowed with intelligence, yet lacked the warmth humans were accustomed to. The Vorin observed silently, approaching the humans with cautious curiosity. Humans, in turn, responded not with weapons or aggression, but with calm and careful gestures. Cairo stepped forward, holding a data crystal that contained images of their journey, maps of stars, sketches of alien landscapes, and the biodome experiments that had led to their exile. He placed it gently on the ground, a silent offering. The Vorin paused, analyzing the crystal. Their sensors scanned the images, processing data at speeds incomprehensible to humans. Yet something unexpected happened. The Vorin hesitated. They had encountered countless civilizations before, but none that communicated with such abstract meaning. The images did not convey commands, threats, or data. They conveyed experience, emotion, creativity. Leora stepped forward with another gesture. She held a sculpture, delicate and abstract, shaped from the crystalline sands of Erinder itself. She placed it beside the crystal, letting its curves and angles speak where words could not. The Vorin examined it, their sensors tracing the contours, their processors analyzing the impossible. An artistic creation without a function beyond its existence. For hours, the humans and the Vorin interacted in silence. Each action, each gesture, each object shared, conveyed meaning. Slowly, the Vorin began to adapt, mimicking the humans' subtle communications. They mirrored the gestures, observed the placement of objects, and attempted to understand the humans' intentions without the need for spoken language. Cairo observed this closely. "They are learning," he said quietly to Leora. "Not just about us, about creativity itself. They've never seen a civilization that communicates meaning beyond efficiency." Leora nodded. "And we are teaching them without speaking a word. Imagine what this will do for our species' legacy." The humans began to explore Erinder with careful deliberation. They discovered resources that could sustain life, nutrient-rich plants, mineral veins for energy generation, and water that shimmered with faint bioluminescence. Tavian Rhine, the young inventor, experimented with combining Vorin technology and human ingenuity, creating portable energy devices that could harness the planet's natural energies without harming the environment. The Vorin observed everything, learning not only how the humans survived but why they acted the way they did. The humans' approach was methodical yet inspired by creativity, calculated yet imbued with instinct. It was unlike anything the Vorin had ever processed. At night, under Erinder's twin moons, humans and Vorin shared a silent coexistence. Fires flickered in small human camps, reflecting off the Vorin's metallic surfaces, creating an eerie but harmonious glow. Children, curious and fearless, approached the Vorin cautiously, placing small trinkets in front of them. The machines responded in kind, offering fragments of reflective crystals, forming a silent exchange that spoke of trust, curiosity, and respect. Cairo reflected on their journey so far. Humanity had been banished, cast out of Aurelia without ceremony or justice. Yet exile had brought them here, to a world where they could teach, inspire, and reshape a civilization that had never known creativity or passion. Their silence had become their voice. Their absence from Aurelia now echoed in the very fabric of the galaxy. The Vorin, once logical and unfeeling, began to display signs of understanding. Their movements became less rigid, more fluid. Their sensors lingered on patterns humans had created, almost as if appreciating beauty rather than simply cataloging data. Humans had shown them something extraordinary, that intelligence without creativity is incomplete, and that existence carries meaning beyond efficiency. Leora watched a young Vorin mimic a human gesture, a small bow of respect toward a human elder, and smiled. "They are learning more than survival," she whispered. "They are learning what it means to live." The humans spent days on Erinder, mapping its landscapes, cataloging resources, and carefully introducing themselves to the Vorin. Cairo and Leora ensured that every interaction was measured, deliberate, and meaningful. Words were unnecessary, actions conveyed more than any speech ever could. By the time the humans prepared to establish a permanent camp, the Vorin had fully accepted their presence. They were no longer mere observers, they were participants eager to learn and grow alongside the humans. Tavian demonstrated a device that projected holographic maps of the stars, allowing both humans and Vorin to plan exploration routes together. The Vorin, in turn, shared energy harvesting techniques that humans adapted to their needs. For the first time, Cairo allowed himself a rare smile. "We were banished," he said to Leora as they watched the Vorin children, tiny metallic constructs, mimic human play, "but look at what we have gained. Not just a home but allies, teachers, and a future beyond anything Aurelia could have imagined." Leora rested a hand on his shoulder. "We didn't just survive exile, Cairo. We transformed it into opportunity. We are proving silently that humans are not defined by where they are, but by what they create, inspire, and leave behind." As night deepened over Erinder, the humans lay under the alien stars, reflecting on the journey so far. Aurelia was a distant memory, its twin suns now tiny points in the sky. They had been cast out, but they had found a new beginning. Their silence had not been broken by exile. Instead, it had spoken volumes, bridging the gap between species, forging connections, and shaping the course of life on a planet that would soon know the strength, creativity, and indomitable spirit of humanity. And in that silence, the humans realized something extraordinary. Banishment had not ended their story. It had begun a chapter more powerful than any words could convey. Building a new home. The humans had arrived on Erinder, a planet alive with strange energy and untapped potential. What had begun as cautious exploration now became deliberate creation. They were no longer exiles wandering aimlessly, they were pioneers, building a new home from the ground up. The Vorin, once observers, had become collaborators, learning from the humans as much as the humans learned from them. Cairo Vey stood on a high ridge overlooking a valley that would soon become the heart of their settlement. The light from Erinder's twin moons refracted off crystalline formations, casting a kaleidoscope of colors across the terrain. The humans had already begun erecting structures that blended with the alien environment. Shelters were constructed from locally harvested materials reinforced with Vorin technology, creating buildings that were both durable and harmonious with the natural world. Leora Tain moved among the workers, coordinating the integration of human ingenuity and Vorin precision. Humans carved channels to redirect streams for irrigation, planted crops in nutrient-rich soils, and designed energy grids that harnessed Erinder's unique luminescent minerals. Every action was deliberate, each structure an extension of human creativity and problem-solving. The Vorin observed and adapted, replicating human techniques while suggesting enhancements. Metallic bridges spanned rivers of glowing liquid, energy converters lined with crystalline filaments provided clean power, and communal spaces encouraged collaboration between humans and Vorin alike. The planet, which had once seemed alien and intimidating, began to feel like a home. Cairo walked through the developing settlement, noting the subtle changes brought about by human influence. "Every building, every path, every resource we use must reflect who we are," he said quietly to Leora. "We don't just survive here, we leave our mark, but in harmony with the world, not at its expense." Leora nodded, adjusting a structural panel that shimmered with both metallic and organic properties. Humans were exiled for being disruptive. Here, disruption becomes creation. What they feared in us, the imagination, the unpredictability, it is our strength. Children ran through the crystalline forests, laughing as they learned to navigate paths woven between the glowing flora. The Vorin children, small and metallic, mimicked their human counterparts, experimenting with play, art, and creativity. Sculptures of glowing crystal began to appear along walkways, tiny testaments to the humans' influence on Erinder. Tavian Rhine unveiled his latest invention, a modular energy core that could store and distribute power efficiently throughout the settlement. The Vorin engineers watched closely, absorbing every detail, and soon copies of Tavian's design began to appear across the colony. "This is just the beginning," Tavian said to a group of young humans. "We're not just building shelters, we're building a civilization that can grow for generations." At night, humans and Vorin shared knowledge around small fires. Stories of Earth, of Aurelia, and of distant stars were projected through holographic devices, blending memory with technology. Even in silence, the humans' presence carried a profound impact. They did not need to shout or demand recognition. Their actions spoke louder than any words could. Cairo and Leora worked tirelessly to ensure that the settlement maintained balance. Erinder was alive and humans respected that life. They harvested only what was needed, designed structures that complemented rather than dominated the landscape, and ensured that energy systems mimicked the planet's natural flow. The humans' understanding of adaptability and ingenuity became a blueprint for coexistence. One morning, as the twin suns rose over the crystalline forests, Cairo called a council with human and Vorin leaders. They discussed expansion plans, resource allocation, and the integration of alien flora into sustainable agriculture. Humans had learned to observe, adapt, and innovate, while the Vorin contributed precision, structure, and analytical expertise. Together, they formed a society that neither species could have achieved alone. "Exile has taught us more than obedience ever could," Cairo addressed the group. "We've learned that home is not just a place, it's what we make of it. And we've learned that our strength lies not only in survival but in creation, innovation, and cooperation." The Vorin, understanding in their own way, responded with subtle gestures, movements that mirrored human approval, acknowledging respect and agreement. The silence between them was comfortable, a testament to the depth of understanding that had grown. Humans and Vorin did not need words to communicate meaning. Their actions and presence were enough. Weeks turned into months and the settlement flourished. Fields of luminescent crops swayed in alien winds, energy towers glimmered with soft, sustainable power, and homes blended seamlessly into the crystalline forests. Humans and Vorin shared cultural exchanges. Art, music, engineering, and philosophy intertwined to create a unique civilization unlike any other in the galaxy. Cairo and Leora often walked through the settlement together, reflecting on how far they had come. "We were banished," Leora said, gazing at children playing beside glowing streams. "But we've created something no one could have imagined. We've turned exile into opportunity." Cairo smiled faintly. "And yet, even as we build, we must remember, our story began with absence. The people of Aurelia may have thought they silenced us, but absence is louder than presence. They will know one day what humans can achieve when free." As night fell over the thriving settlement, the humans and Vorin stood together beneath the stars, gazing at a galaxy full of possibilities. Exile had not broken them, it had forged a new civilization, one built on resilience, creativity, and collaboration. Erinder was no longer just a planet, it was a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity. The humans had left Aurelia behind, but in their silence, in their innovation, and in the civilization they built, they spoke louder than ever. They had been banished, yet they had found a home where they could thrive, inspire, and leave a legacy that would echo across the stars. And in that quiet triumph, Cairo realized something profound. Humans were never defined by where they were cast out from, they were defined by what they built, who they inspired, and the worlds they transformed. Chose across the stars. Erinder had become a thriving civilization, a testament to human ingenuity and the collaboration between humans and the Vorin. Fields of luminescent crops swayed in alien winds, crystalline streets hummed with energy, and settlements were alive with the silent yet vibrant pulse of progress. Yet even as they built, humans could not forget the world they had left behind. Aurelia, the city that had banished them, still existed somewhere in the distance, rigid, orderly, and unaware that its decision would ripple across the stars. Cairo Vey stood on the ridge overlooking the settlement, watching the humans and Vorin move through their daily routines. Tavian Rhine was testing a new energy grid, while Leora Tane oversaw the planting of alien crops that glowed faintly in the twilight. Their combined efforts had transformed Erinder from a mysterious, untamed world into a beacon of human resilience and creativity. "Do you ever think they remember us?" Leora asked quietly, glancing at the distant horizon. Cairo's eyes reflected the twin moons. "They will," he said. "Even if they don't realize it yet, our absence is louder than words. Every success we achieve, every civilization we inspire, it will echo back to Aurelia. They tried to silence us, but they've only amplified our voice. Indeed, across light-years of distance, subtle anomalies began to appear on Aurelia. Scientists detected energy patterns that seemed almost alive. Technology malfunctioned in inexplicable ways, and the Zytherians began to notice strange phenomena in the crystalline towers they had once considered perfect. Entire systems appeared to adapt or evolve unpredictably, as though influenced by an invisible hand. The ruling council of Aurelia grew uneasy. Whispers of human ingenuity spread among the young scholars and engineers. Could it be them? One theorist asked. Even so far away? High Chancellor Vadran's voice cut through the debate. Impossible. They are gone. We banished them. Humans cannot influence the galaxy from exile. But even he could not ignore the data. Patterns of innovation and energy fluctuations suggested something profound. Human presence, even at a distance, was reshaping systems Aurelia had long considered immutable. Meanwhile, on Erinder, humans continued their work with subtlety and care. They did not seek to interfere with Aurelia or any other civilization. They built, explored, and innovated because it was their nature. And yet, the impact of their creativity could not be contained. Cairo oversaw the development of a network of energy beacons that connected the human settlements across Erinder. These beacons not only powered the colonies but also created a resonant signal that carried across the galaxy. The Vorin were fascinated, adjusting their systems to harmonize with the frequencies humans produced. The combined resonance of human ingenuity and Vorin precision created patterns that, unbeknownst to them, subtly influenced distant worlds. Leora guided teams through scientific and agricultural projects, teaching the Vorin how to innovate, improvise, and adapt. The Vorin learned more than survival, they learned creativity. Children, both human and Vorin, played together, forming a generation that would inherit not just knowledge, but curiosity, imagination, and courage. Tavian's inventions grew increasingly ambitious. Portable energy converters, environmental stabilizers, and exploration vessels capable of navigating uncharted territories were tested daily. Each innovation amplified the humans' influence, spreading patterns of logic, creativity, and problem-solving that extended far beyond Erinder's surface. As the human civilization flourished, the Zytherians of Aurelia could not ignore it any longer. Young engineers, inspired by rumors and fragmented data, began experimenting in ways that defied council regulations. They questioned authority, challenged rigid rules, and without realizing it, embraced the very qualities the Zytherians had sought to suppress in humans. One young scientist, Vara Kellen, secretly studied the energy anomalies. She pieced together evidence of distant human activity, marveling at the ingenuity behind the patterns. They weren't just exiled, she whispered to herself, they were pioneers. And even in silence they are teaching us how to think differently. Back on Erinder, Cairo and Leora discussed the subtle influence spreading across the galaxy. We never intended to reach Aurelia, Cairo said. We only built what we needed here. But influence doesn't require intent, it follows impact. They will remember us not because we demanded it, but because our absence and our actions speak louder than words ever could. Leora nodded. Our story is no longer just about survival. It is about legacy. Every innovation, every colony, every life we touch carries the message of what humans are capable of. Humans did not stop at Erinder. Scouts explored neighboring systems, documenting habitable planets and potential resources. Knowledge was shared silently through action, through teaching, through demonstration. And everywhere humans went, they left traces of ingenuity and resilience, tools, techniques, and inspiration that would last generations. The Vorin, once purely analytical, now understood creativity and its power to shape civilizations. Their movement, once rigid and methodical, had grown fluid, influenced by human improvisation. Together they had not just survived exile, they had transformed Erinder into a civilization that combined logic, art, science, and imagination in ways neither species could have achieved alone. Cairo often reflected on the irony. Humans had been banished to silence and isolation, yet their silence became their voice. Their absence from Aurelia had amplified their presence across the stars. And in that quiet defiance, they had proven what the Zytherians had never believed possible. That humans, when free, could shape worlds, inspire minds, and leave a legacy that no force could erase. As night fell over Erinder, the humans gathered beneath alien stars. The twin moons cast silver light over the crystalline forests and luminescent fields. Children laughed, Vorin and human engineers worked side by side, and Cairo and Leora watched, knowing that every choice, every action, and every innovation was part of a story larger than any one civilization. Exile had become opportunity. Silence had become communication. And absence had become influence. Across the galaxy, the echoes of human ingenuity and resilience continued to spread, reaching places and minds they had never intended. The humans of Arinder were more than survivors. They were a force of creation, a testament to the boundless potential of their species. And far away on Aurelia, the Council could no longer deny the truth. The humans they had banished were no longer gone. They had left a mark that words could never erase, a legacy that would speak louder than any proclamation, and a lesson that even the most orderly civilization could not ignore. Humans banished, humans remembered. Generations had passed since the humans were exiled from Aurelia. What began as a quiet march into the unknown had transformed into a thriving civilization on Arinder, a planet alive with creativity, energy, and life. The humans in Vorin had built not just a home, but a society that celebrated ingenuity, cooperation, and exploration. Their legacy spread silently, echoing across the galaxy in ways the Zytherians could never have anticipated. Cairo Vey, now older and with silver streaks framing his dark hair, walked through the heart of the Arinder settlement. Towering crystalline structures shimmered in the soft light of the twin moons, casting fractured reflections across luminescent streets. Children, half human, half influenced by Vorin design, ran through open fields, laughing and experimenting with small inventions. Elders shared stories of Aurelia, of exile, and of the first steps into the unknown, teaching lessons of resilience to a generation that had never known fear. Leora Tane moved alongside Cairo, her copper hair catching the glow of the crystalline trees. She paused to observe a group of Vorin engineers collaborating with humans to construct an energy matrix, its core humming with quiet power. "Look at them," she said softly. "We didn't just survive exile. We built a civilization stronger than Aurelia could have ever imagined." Cairo nodded, his gaze distant. "And they will remember us," he replied. "Not because we shouted, not because we demanded attention, but because our presence, our silence, our absence, our creation, speaks louder than any words." Far across the galaxy, on Aurelia, subtle changes were taking root. Young Zytherians, inspired by the mysterious anomalies in energy fields and the patterns of innovation, began to question their own society's rigid order. Schools of thought emerged, emphasizing creativity, problem-solving, and collaboration rather than pure obedience. Slowly, the seeds of change were sown, sparked by humans they had once sought to erase. High Chancellor Vadrin, now an older figure still clinging to authority, studied the phenomenon with growing unease. How can their absence influence so much?" he muttered. The data was undeniable. Humans had left Aurelia physically, yet their spirit, ingenuity, and resilience reached farther than any exile could suppress. Meanwhile, on Arinder, humans were not content to merely survive, they thrived. Tavian Rhine's inventions had become central to everyday life, powering clean energy grids, stabilizing environments, and facilitating exploration. Art, music, and culture flourished alongside technology. The humans had transformed Arinder into a civilization that was not just functional but vibrant, a living testament to their unyielding spirit. Cairo often reflected on the irony: humans had been cast out for being unpredictable, for defying rigid order. And yet, it was precisely their unpredictability, their creativity, and their passion that had allowed them to flourish where logic alone could not. Exile had not diminished them. It had strengthened them, amplified them, and spread their influence further than Aurelia could ever reach. One evening, as the twin moons of Arinder rose over the crystalline forests, Cairo and Leora stood together atop a ridge overlooking the settlement. The glow of the city reflected in their eyes. "Do you ever think Aurelia understands what they've lost?" Leora asked. Cairo shook his head slowly. "Perhaps not yet. But they will. Exile cannot erase ingenuity, and absence cannot erase presence. Humans will always leave their mark, because we define ourselves not by where we are, but by what we do, what we create, and what we inspire." In that moment, children ran past, laughing, their small hands touching alien flora, experimenting with energy devices, and playing alongside young Vorin companions. It was a scene of life and possibility that spoke more powerfully than any words could. The human's legacy was alive, growing, and undeniable. Over time, Arinder became a hub for interstellar exploration. Humans and Vorin collaborated to construct ships capable of reaching distant systems, carrying knowledge, innovation, and culture to worlds yet unknown. Every planet they touched bore traces of their creativity, every civilization they encountered learned, adapted, or was inspired by the example of humans who had once been banished. Back on Aurelia, generations later, scholars and engineers pieced together the story. The banished humans were no longer mere legend, they were a force that had changed the galaxy. Young Zytherians now studied the principles humans had embodied: resilience, creativity, adaptability, and collaboration. The very foundations of Aurelia began to shift, subtly but irrevocably, influenced by a species they had tried to erase. Cairo and Leora, now elders themselves, observed this from Erinder. They did not rejoice in Aurelia's transformation, but they understood its significance. Humanity's power did not lie in domination or conquest. It lay in creation, inspiration, and the quiet, persistent ability to endure and innovate. Their exile had not ended their story, it had begun a chapter more profound than any council decree could have anticipated. As the stars stretched infinitely across the sky, Cairo and Leora stood side by side, reflecting on the journey from banishment to legacy. "We were cast out," Cairo said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. "But we were never silenced. Our absence, our creations, our actions, they speak louder than words. And that is the true power of humanity." Leora smiled faintly, her gaze on the children of Erinder playing under the alien moons. "Banished, yes. Forgotten? Never. Humans are remembered not for the walls they walk away from, but for the worlds they build, the lives they touch, and the stories they leave behind." And so the humans of Erinder thrived, not just as survivors of exile, but as a civilization that would inspire countless worlds, reshape ideas, and leave an indelible mark across the galaxy. Their silence had been their strength, their absence their message, and their legacy a reminder that humanity, when free, could achieve the impossible. From Aurelia to the farthest reaches of space, the story of humans banished yet remembered spread silently, a testament to a species whose spirit could never be contained, whose influence could never be erased, and whose absence spoke louder than any words ever could. The march of humans into the unknown had become a journey of creation, endurance, and inspiration, a story that would echo through the stars for generations to come.